Few players in NBA history have sparked as much disbelief and heartbreak as Isaiah Thomas. In 2017, a 5'9" point guard stood among the league's elite, an All-Star, an All-NBA selection, and a top 5 MVP finalist. Then, within a single year, everything collapsed. He went from one of the most dynamic offensive forces in the game to one of the least efficient, while becoming the most exploitable defender on any roster he joined. This is the full story of Isaiah Thomas. The improbable rise fueled by a lifetime of doubters, the impossible playoff performances that defined a city, and the medical negligence that stole what should have been one of the great careers in modern basketball history. Isaiah Thomas was never supposed to make it. His father was a Lakers fan who despised the legendary Pistons point guard Isaiah Thomas, but after losing a bet, he was forced to name his son after his rival, adding an extra A to set them apart. From childhood, young Isaiah was consumed by basketball, despite always being the smallest player on every court. His parents tried everything to redirect him. His father took him to adult pickup games, hoping the physical punishment would force a change of plans. It backfired. Isaiah absorbed every hit, got back up, and kept attacking. He averaged 30 points per game in his final 2 high school seasons, then earned all-conference honors in all 3 years at the University of Washington, averaging 16 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists across 105 games. In the 2011 NBA draft, Isaiah Thomas was called with the very last pick, 60th overall by Sacramento. To most people, being chosen last is humiliating. To Isaiah, it was just another chance to prove people wrong, which he had been doing his entire life. Every year, in every environment, he fought the perception that someone else deserved the spot more. Every year, he answered on the court. Within months of arriving in Sacramento, he had earned a starting spot he would never give up. By his 3rd season, he became the shortest player in NBA history to average 20 points and 6 assists per game, and produced the shortest triple-double in league history with 24 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds against Washington. But the Kings traded him for practically nothing, sending him to Phoenix, a team that already had 2 starting point guards, a decision that baffled everyone watching. His time in Phoenix was brief and forgettable, but his next stop would redefine him entirely. Boston rewards toughness and competitive fire, and Thomas had both. A close friend texted him when the trade was announced, saying it was the greatest thing that had ever happened to his career. Thomas wasn't convinced at first. In his opening partial season with the Celtics, he posted 16 points and 4 assists off the bench, finished second in 6th-man voting, and was Boston's best player in their playoff exit against Cleveland. The following year, he became a permanent starter, leading the team in scoring and assists with career highs of 22 points and 6+ assists, and earned his first All-Star selection. He became the lowest draft pick to make the All-Star game since the draft moved to 2 rounds, tying Calvin Murphy as the shortest All-Star in history. Thomas had firmly arrived. The 2016-17 season was when Thomas became genuinely elite. Coach Brad Stevens rebuilt the entire offense around his gifts, quickness, pick-and-roll mastery, and his ability to score in ways that defied his size. The team created space, moved with discipline, and Stevens positioned Thomas on the defensive weak side to limit his exposure. The system existed to place Isaiah where he could do maximum damage, and he delivered one of the finest seasons in Celtics history. He averaged a career-high 28.9 points on efficient splits, posted 33 per game in January alone, only the 3rd Celtic to average 30+ in a month, and set the franchise record with 43 straight games of 20 or more points. Against Miami, he dropped a franchise record 29 points in the 4th quarter, finishing with a career-high 52. He earned All-Star and 2nd All-NBA honors, becoming the shortest player ever to appear on an All-NBA team. Behind the brilliance was devastating personal loss. One day before the playoffs, Thomas learned his younger sister China had been killed in a car accident in Washington state. She was 22, his closest supporter throughout his entire career. For the first time in his life, Isaiah didn't want to play. Teammate Avery Bradley had to physically hold him up as he nearly collapsed from grief. Boston dropped the first 2 games against Chicago, then Thomas decided to channel everything into honoring China, and the Celtics won the next 4 straight. Before the second round, he attended her funeral. then flew back that same day to play Game 1 against Washington, where an elbow from Otto Porter knocked out a front tooth. He still finished with 33 points and 9 assists. Game 2 was extraordinary. On what would have been China's 23rd birthday, Thomas scored 53 points, second highest in Celtics playoff history, as Boston won in overtime. He poured in 20 in the fourth quarter and 9 more in OT, pushing Boston to the conference finals before his hip finally gave out after 2 games. The damage traced back to mid-March when Karl-Anthony Towns fell onto Thomas's back against Minnesota. Thomas got up and kept playing. The Celtics staff misidentified the injury as a groin problem and treated it with a single injection while supplying painkillers to keep him available. Thomas, unaware of the true severity, kept competing out of loyalty. By the time he was shut down, he could barely walk. Even then, the team recommended rest over surgery. In August came a quiet phone call. He had been traded to Cleveland for Kyrie Irving. His physical with the Cavaliers revealed the full picture, not just a labral tear, but arthritis and significant cartilage loss developing over multiple seasons. The damage was not new. It had been accumulating while the Celtics kept him medicated and on the court. Boston quietly dismissed their head trainer and strength coach at season's end with no public explanation. Thomas returned in Cleveland after missing the season's opening months, but was unrecognizable. Everything that made him dangerous, the explosive first step, the hesitation dribble, the burst through a gap, required hip explosiveness that was simply gone. Without separation, he couldn't create. Without creation, nothing worked. Cleveland's poor defense exposed his defensive weaknesses constantly, and he disengaged on that end almost entirely. Frustration boiled over publicly. He clashed with teammates and called out Kevin Love for sitting out a game due to a mental health issue, destroying whatever goodwill remained. When LeBron hit a buzzer beater and the bench erupted, LeBron visibly excluded Thomas from the celebration. After 15 games, Cleveland traded him to the Lakers, attaching a first-round pick just to move him. His shooting sat at 38% in Los Angeles, and his impact was no better. Thomas had once spoken confidently to reporters about expecting a maximum contract. A Brinks truck pulled right up outside his house, as he famously put it. 1 year later, after 32 games across 2 franchises, he signed a 1-year veteran minimum deal worth $2 million with Denver. Even that didn't hold. He averaged 15 minutes and 8 points on 34% shooting. Denver's net rating dropped over 10 points with him on the floor, and he appeared in just 12 games before being released. Over the following 3 seasons, he cycled through rosters, appearing in 65 more games and averaging 10 points on poor efficiency, never recovering his Boston form. The hip damage was irreversible. One specialist noted plainly that untreated cartilage injuries almost always compound into permanent problems. Exactly what happened. Boston dismissed the responsible medical staff, but the harm could not be undone. Thomas lost his peak years and over $100 million in potential earnings. Had the injury been diagnosed correctly in December 2016, everything could have been different. Instead, Isaiah Thomas became one of basketball's most painful and enduring stories. A player who climbed to the very top against every conceivable odd, ultimately brought down not by a rival or a superior opponent, but by the very people who were trusted and paid to protect him.